I get asked constantly, are you a workaholic? I wrote actually an article on LinkedIn about that because I was thinking that.
You are a workaholic.
You know, people say, are you a workaholic? I never feel that I'm working. I'm having fun every day. The stories that I hear of people that will change their lives keeps me going. My team, seeing my team every morning. I have a habit every morning. I walk around the office and say good morning to every single person in the office. It keeps me going. I can only deliver what I deliver if tender love and care exists behind the scenes. And I'm not saying that my involvement into it from a business perspective or an ownership perspective or all that kind of stuff. You know, tender love and care is run by a CEO. It has its own team. I don't run the everyday in it. But it's what keeps me alive.
So, welcome back to the QuestX podcast. Today, Yasser, I want to learn a little bit more about you and your story, and would love you to share your journey to success. Do you want to start with telling us how you started? What is the beginning of your journey? What was your first business venture? How did you get started when you first moved to Australia?
I'll try not to get too emotional on this. It's a very, it brings me a lot of memories. But I came to Australia more than 20 years ago. I went up to my father and I said to him, I'm going to Australia. My father said, no. And I said, why? I finished my uni. I'm all good to go. Why wouldn't I? I'm an adult now. And he goes, we have no one in Australia. You have no family there. What are you going to do there? It's going to be just a failure for you and you're going to struggle. Just go. If you need to travel, go to the United States. I have a big family in New York and you just go start there. I said, but that's what everyone else does in the family, because it's a thing in the family that everyone just wants to travel. They go to the States for the rest of the family. I said, I want to do my own thing. And Australia was the selection because I started in an Australian university. So it just made sense for me. I thought I'm going to just land and find jobs lining up in the airport. Little did I know that didn't happen. But the challenge was that my dad said to me, well, don't come back crying, asking for help if you make that decision on your own. He didn't put him in, but that was a good guy, but he wanted to challenge me on my decision. Me being me, came to Australia and I couldn't find a job. And I struggled very badly in the beginning. And because my dad told me don't come back crying, I couldn't call him back crying. And I did cry almost every night at the time. It was a bit of a journey. And I never called him and asked for help. I had to push hard. And there's many times where I thought, do I go back? Do I not go back? Then I met people that helped to be on the journey and people that didn't, and people did the right thing and people that didn't. But that was the start of it, is coming in blind and not knowing even what job should I apply for. Where do I go? Even getting lost on the streets. It was a bit difficult in that context. But I have no regrets on that, by the way. Literally. And at the time, I didn't even regret it at the time. I just saw it as, I need to just make it. I need to make it happen. I need to deliver. I need to get the outcome. Then the first job I worked in was at Nick Scali Furniture. And in the beginning, when I applied there was a gentleman. I'm not going to mention the name. I don't know if I should mention the name of Nick Scali, but I had a good experience with Nick Scali. They were actually kind to me. But the beginning of my journey at Nick Scali was that I wanted to apply for a job, and the manager at the time, he kept telling me, I'll help you, but he never actually did. Until I went up to him and I said to him, what you're doing is very unethical, very, he had a belief system that was very apparent because in his desk, it was just all over the desk. And I said, what you're delivering here is nothing to what your belief system is. Your belief system is about helping others, supporting others, that kind of stuff. And you're not, I know you're not. And he initially got offended and he said to me, how dare you talk like that? And I highlighted to him. I said, well, you can't put all these symbols of faith that tells you to help others, and all you're doing is just lying to me. And he looks at me and he goes, you're absolutely right. I am really sorry. Let me see what I can do. And he got me an interview, and then I got the job. And that person, till now, I see him every now and again, and we say hi, and he helped me a lot. He's a good guy. But we sometimes, because we might be asked 10,000 questions about, helping someone to get a job, we sometimes just don't do it. And I would tell people, if you can't do it every single time. Because I do that today, every single time. If I can, I would. If I can't, then that's fair. But if you can, do it. So anyway, that was the beginning of a journey of learning. And at the time, I was like, that's not why I came to work in, but at least it was a job that I was respectful. I did good work. And I was very excited about it because I was quite desperate for the job. One of the best things that happened to me is that I worked at Nixkali Furniture. Because one of the things that I struggled with English, sense of humor. I was very lame. I couldn't say a joke. Every time I said a joke, people looked at me like I was weird, because a lot of it was translated. It's a true story. Sometimes we don't understand the struggles of a migrant. Sometimes it's not even the language is the problem, because I spoke English. The problem was actually understanding even the dialect of Australians. The context. Saying a joke was, how can you have a conversation with someone that can't have a joke with? Do you know what I mean? Like, think of those little things. I remember when a person by the name of Dion was training me, and this person I owe a lot in my life for, a lot. And Dion goes to me, so we're gonna, the lounge is timber framework with spring coils and density. And I start going technical on the lounges. I'm like, is that even English? Like, I just completely. He goes, oh, and if someone asks about Manchester, we don't say Manchester. I'm like, what the hell is Manchester? I thought that was the football team in the UK, these things now, it's a joke. Back then, I'm sitting there, I could lose my job if I acted like I didn't understand what he was saying. So I had to pencil down everything and go back and search for it. And we didn't have ChatGPT back then, all right? So the challenge is real.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how big it is, because sometimes we take what we have for granted.
So
right?
how did you turn that around?
I worked hard. Every night I stayed up and I taught myself about furniture and what it means. I taught myself about the words that I didn't understand when he was saying it in the morning. I went back and researched it, looked for it. I became one of the top salespeople in Nixkali. I became a manager of the Mall Park store, which is one of their flagship stores. I was the person that expanded it from a smaller store to a much bigger store. I was delivering the best numbers in the company. I've delivered outcomes for Nixkali and for myself. But why was it good? Because working in sales helped me to improve my English, improve my communication, and learn how to pivot all the time. My name was Yasser, right? How many Yassers have you met in your life?
I think I've met two.
Two.
Yeah.
All right. So can you imagine my customers? I'm a salesperson. I want people to remember my name when they come back to buy something. They never remembered it. They only remembered if there's a problem. People was like, where's Yasser? I know exactly there's a problem. It's a true story. Because, and the other thing is, I'm not a John or a Michael, so people didn't remember my name very often. And I had to work hard on people to remember, if not my name, my character. By trusting me, by being honest, by being straightforward. So they come back for the honest guy that was working here. Those little things are very critical to understand the start of the journey. And I didn't share many of those, by the way, things. I'm sharing it for QuestX because I'm very passionate about this project. And I had challenges where people set me up to fail. I mean, I remember one of the encounters I had at Nixkali was a person that told me, I'm going to help you to succeed. I got excited. Thank you so much. I bought him lunch every day. And he goes, you just go in the back until you learn, the skills. And you will get customers that the experienced salespeople will miss. And then you just get these guys and you sell to them. At the end of the month, I found myself not having any figures. I'm like, how come I've been selling so well? This guy gave me the golden nugget. I know exactly what to do. And what he was doing is he was setting me up to sell floor stock items, which doesn't add to our monthly sales figures. But I had no idea. So it was my first month ever. So he kept, anyone wanted anything off the floor, he would send them to me. So he can have more time to say the things that mattered, with his commission and all these things. These things I didn't see coming. I thought the guy was doing me a favor. Do you know what I mean? You don't understand how upsetting it is when you potentially or almost actually lost your job because someone just gave you the wrong advice. You know, so if you come and ask me to support, I support, because I understand very well what it means. I understand the importance of podcast. Back then, I didn't listen to podcasts. I didn't attend conferences. I didn't have someone telling me what they struggled with. So I make sure that I don't fall for the same problem.
So how do you go from Nick Scarley to owning one of the largest healthcare companies in Australia?
This is so Nick Scarley was one of my best journeys. I loved working for Nick Scarley, but it was very corporate minded, right? It was about sales, commission, marketing, communication, that kind of stuff, right? The mindset was I came from a very struggling beginning in a country that I don't understand very well. I had to work hard on understanding, fit in the culture, respect the people, and build the future in it. That was my focus. And that meant for me making money. That's what it meant to me. How can you make money to be able to buy property? How can you make money to be able to go on a holiday? How can you make money to be able to drive a nice car? Until I met a lady on a train. And through helping her, she reminded me very well that the true happiness is in giving back. And that is something I lived. And I discovered that and it was funny because I was chasing financial returns. I wanted to sell more to make more commission. I wanted to drive a nice car. It was important for me. But every time I look at my bank account, I didn't have a lot of money. I earned good money. My salary was great. My commission was great. But for some reason, it's like I wasn't blessed. I just never had a lot of money. I had a good lifestyle, but not a lot of money. I never looked at my bank account and had a lot of money, even though that was what I worked for. And satisfaction was just not there. I really was never satisfied. In sales, every month starts from zero. So you never stop pushing hard for the next month. So how do you get a sense of satisfaction if you start from zero every time? You know, the only thing that made me happy was when a family bought a lounge and they said, thank you so much, that was perfect. That was my happiest moment, you know. So the second I started giving back, I started realizing, hang on a second, this just feels so good. But one of the things that we need to change, I will work very hard to change, and I want everyone to support me to change, is why are people that are in the care industry are the least paid? Why are the people that work in caring for others and helping others and giving back to others every day, they're expected to be poor and not have enough? I don't understand it. I really don't get it. If anyone deserves to be rich, it's these people. If anyone deserves to earn more, it's the people that give back every day for people that are vulnerable in our communities. Do you know how hard is it emotionally when you get up and work with someone that needs help, that might have an emotional distress, that you have to, work on a strategy that, stop a behavior or reduce a behavior so they don't risk their lives. Every day you're dealing with that. Do you know how many times we see people trying to commit suicide or actually committed suicide? We know people with disability usually die earlier. So, you know how many times you support someone for 10, 15, 20 years and they pass away on you? This is difficult stuff. And somehow you're expected to not earn a reasonable amount of return for it to sustain a good family life. That's not okay. And that's exactly what I faced. I made a decision that if giving back feels good, I'm going to quit my next Kali job. I'm going to educate myself in disability, and I'm going to work as a disability support worker. And I did. And guess what? I ended up having no money. I'm like, if my heart is telling me this feels so good, my brain's telling me, what the hell have you done? But my dad said to me at the time, a ship without goodness sinks. If my life doesn't have goodness, it means nothing. So the question was, then how can I change that narrative? How can I then become successful and help people? And the narrative of helping people can come from being successful. I can help more people by being successful, by being a thought leader, by being a person that people look up to. I can help a lot more people, and I help a lot more people every single day, internationally, nationally, and I give back all the time, happily. But also my life has improved from a financial aspect when I stopped chasing the money. When I said money is not the important part, giving back is the important part.
So tell me about the businesses you have today. Tell me what your business does. Tell me the size, the locations. Tell me about TLC.
Okay. What I want to tell you before I tell you about TLC is one of the things that sometimes we confuse is working in disability and giving back are the same thing. Working in disability is part of giving back. It's not all what you give back. You know, giving back to audience like what we're doing in QuestX, that's giving back. Not necessarily targeted at people with disability, even though they are included in that. You know, when we start a business, the idea is, I'm passionate about disability specific, to be honest. I've got a personal passion with that. But beyond that, how can I create a business that is sustainable and not very controlled? I believe that the government cannot do it on its own. Sometimes we get hard on the government. Sometimes we pin a lot of the issues in the government. And there are a lot of issues, no questions. There are a lot of issues in the businesses. There are a lot of issues in the government. There's a lot of issues in everything. But when you start exploring the world, you start realizing we are blessed, and I say blessed in capital letters, to be in Australia. With all the bad things we fight for, with the bad things we fight, to improve things, we are still having it really good. We still need to fight. We still need to make sure that it improves and gets better, because that's a moral obligation. But we also need to appreciate the wins. And to do that, I had to also make sure that the business is designed in a way that it doesn't only rely on government, because government cannot be the only body that delivers goodness in this world. They just cannot deliver for everybody. You know, how is it going to be sustainable? So I need to play my part. And to play my part, I had to create a platform of businesses that doesn't only rely on government funding. So I can contribute back with control. I need to have control. Government funds you, government tells you how to spend. Rightly so. It has to be regulated. But if I want to do things outside of what the government funds, that's seen as wrong or fraud or all that kind of stuff. So how can I help people outside of the government funding without being seen as that? Is to design a business that can have different streams of revenues, diversification of revenues, that can then contribute to doing good outside of government funding. And that means we're playing our piece in the puzzle, the government is playing the piece in the puzzle, and the community is playing the piece in the puzzle, and that's how the puzzle completes. That's exactly, in a simple term, my business. That's why we went international. We went in 8 different countries. We work with other governments. We learn from other governments' quality of service delivery, mix it up with ours, and deliver a good outcome.
It's definitely a different way of thinking, but it looks like it's all about the win-win-win. So it's winning for the person with disability, the participant. It's winning for the government because they're delivering, and then it's a win for the business who's also, you know, that connection piece.
100%. If the government wins and the businesses don't win, who's going to deliver? It fails. The ecosystem fails. If the government delivers and the business delivers and the people that are vulnerable don't win, then we are working for nothing. And if the government and the people win, the business suffers. And if the business and the people win without supporting the government suffers. And ultimately, everyone suffers if any of these suffers.
Yeah.
All right? So we all need to work towards supporting the government to succeed. And we all need to work supporting the businesses to succeed. And we all need to work together to make sure that people are receiving what they're meant to receive.
So tell me about Tender Loving Care.
It's full of tender loving care. Tender loving care is the passion. If I get asked constantly, are you a workaholic? I wrote actually an article on LinkedIn about that because I was thinking that moment.
You are a workaholic.
You know, people tell, are you a workaholic? I never feel that I'm working. I'm having fun every day. The stories that I hear of people that will change their lives keeps me going. My team, seeing my team every morning. I have a habit every morning. I walk around the office and say good morning to every single person in the office. It keeps me going. I can only deliver what I deliver if tender loving care exists behind the scenes. And I'm not saying about my involvement into it from a business perspective or an ownership perspective or all that kind of stuff. You know, tender loving care is run by a CEO. It has its own team. I don't run the everyday in it. But what keeps me alive. That's tender loving care for me. It's my passion. And my business is outside of tender loving care is very powerful. But tender loving care is the heart of it all. So anyway, I can talk about the businesses as much as you want. But the message that I want to pass here is businesses is not who I am. Okay? Businesses is the token and the outcome of the journey. Let's enjoy the journey that got us there. Because I've seen businesses that lost everything, made everything, were on the top, of the world, collapsed. And we're talking about, look at the Fortune 500 in the world over the last 20 years. Almost none of them exist. If success is always pinned on that, I mean, it's a component of success, is no question. The outcomes are important. But the journey is what no one can take away from you. You make money, you lose money. All the time. You get a position, you lose a position. You win election, you lose election. It's the natural thing of life, right? We hope that we never face that. We hope that that's never the case. But the one thing you never lose is the journey, the experiences, and the learnings. So pay attention to those, because those are only wins. So maximize, gain, and pay attention to them. Attend conferences, listen to podcasts, read books, study if you're able to. Do whatever you need. Find mentors. Find your learning comfort. Not everyone will read a book. That's fine. Listen to a podcast. No one will listen to a podcast. Maybe find a mentor. Have a chat, conversations. Read something. Whatever that is. Because the one thing you don't lose is learning. No matter how hard it gets.
It's the one thing that no one can ever take away from you.
It's yours. Education. Once it's in, it's in.
I love that. It's wonderful. All right. I think that is it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Before we go, I'd love to hear from you what you're going to talk about at QuestX and why someone should come to listen to you.
Okay. Apart from my terrible sense of humor, I would say if you live and breathe impact, and if you can find the right balance between impact and business and how that works and delivers outcomes, everything is achievable because you're combining the most powerful two things together. And that's my presentation. I'll be talking about that. I'll be sharing some success stories in the impacts that we've done, and I'll be sharing what that meant in the real world and what that contribution has delivered.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.